Hey, hello everyone. We're really excited to have you join today's session. I'd love to introduce you to Aubrey. She's here to help me run today's webinar. And I'd also love to introduce you to our panelists. We're just waiting on Subho to join, but Dr. Gleb Tsipursky, CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts. He's an expert in strategic decision making and risk management. Thank you for joining us today. David
Thank you
Judge,
for inviting me.
you're welcome. And our other panelist, David Judge, CEO of Hubstaff, bringing firsthand insights on scaling remote teams and leveraging automation. Welcome, David.
It's exciting to be here.
And I'm sure Subho will join us in a moment, the CEO of Nistula Group. He has deep expertise in BPO operations and global workforce management. Before we dive in, here's a quick rundown of what to expect today. So, first up, we're going to chat to our panelists. We're going to find out what's working, what's changing, and where the biggest opportunities lie for BPOs. Then we'll open the floor to answer your questions. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat anytime, and we're going to weave them into the discussion as we go. So let's jump in. So, first off, why is this playbook relevant right now? Historically, BPOs have been seen as a bit of a cost saving solution, but today that's no longer enough. Companies are choosing strategic partners who bring innovation, compliance expertise, and long term value. So I want to open this question up to all our panelists. What is the single biggest shift a BPO leader needs to make today to stay competitive?
Dr. Gleb,
So
do you want
I
to hit that one
can,
off?
sure, I'm happy to hit that one off. I think when thinking about the biggest shift, I think the biggest shift needs to be technological. So thinking about the technology and being prepared for the disruption that's coming up with generative AI. Of course, with business process outsourcing, what we're seeing is that there's a huge risk around a number of business process outsourcing opportunities being limited with the rise of generative AI. And we're seeing that already. We're seeing a number of disruptions in the BPO industry. And so it's very important for you to get ahead of that and think about which business processes are going to be most easily outsourced to generative AI and to focus on the ones that will be least easily outsourced to generative AI. Because I can tell you that while there are a number of announcements, I work with companies on figuring out their future work decision making, including generative AI decision making adoption. And I'm actually writing a book for Georgetown University Press on generative AI adoption. And so what I'm seeing with my clients is that a number of them are choosing to use generative AI for things that they previously used a BPO provider for, or they're limiting the number of things for which they use the BPO provider. So that's a really important strategy to think about. So that's, I think, the number one question that should be on your mind for the medium term and the long-term outlook of your industry and your company, what you need to be doing to get ahead of that disruption.
Okay, fantastic. My take. So, if we look back at the COVID world that occurred a number of years ago now, which is somewhat of a distant memory for a majority of people, what it did is it created a shifting trend in the expectation of people and what they want to get if they're working for an individual. And I've noticed now a post-COVID world, and you're still feeling the impacts of it. And I think we will for a number of years to come. Employees are now in a position where they're thinking, okay, so what choice do I have? What is it that one company offers over another company? And I believe that you need to be able to look in ways in which you can differentiate yourself as a BPO, and you can differentiate yourself in such a way where you're able to say, so why is it I should be working for you rather than working for another individual? And just from what Dr. Gleb was saying, the AI tools, from the perspective that I'm talking about, AI tools are a critical component of that, along with your culture that you have developed within your business. AI tools to support the individuals that are working for you in order to make their lives easier, in order to make them more efficient. So really, my key takeaway is how is it you differentiate yourself as an employer of choice to enable your business to be a magnet to attract the right type of people you'd like to have working for you.
Thank you so much. And welcome, Subho. Thank you for joining. I'm gonna
Sorry, I joined with the Zoom link, so that's what the mistake I made. Sorry,
No,
sorry for
you're
this.
so fine. Thank you so much. I want to ask you, so you mentioned in the BPO playbook that automation isn't about improving efficiency. It's about defining success through tech-driven transformation. Can you please expand on that for me and how the role of technology has evolved within BPOs?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, first of all. Thank you for having me. And greetings to all the panelists and everybody who is in this webinar. So, see, when I'm talking about technology in BPO evolving, I can say that, technology in BPO has evolved from being a mere efficiency booster to becoming an architect of business reinvention, if I may put it that way. So even as I'm speaking, even as we are speaking right now, let's say right before this, uh, automation was about reducing human effort. But today, if we are talking about automation, we are talking about amplifying human intelligence. And I repeat again, it's amplifying human intelligence. So, you talk about AI, you talk about predictive analysis, you talk about intelligent automation. They just now they don't just make processes faster. They redefine all possibilities. The industry itself is looking at certain different dimensions of possibilities, and automation it's actually redefining that. So the BPOs which are leading today, they aren't just implementing tech, they are leveraging it to anticipate customer needs. They are, and they're using the technology to deliver I would say, hyper personalized solutions, and they are also doing it to drive business outcomes. I mean, these were not even in the radar. If you talk about 5 years ago, I wouldn't even say a decade, but even 5 years ago, this wasn't even in the radar. So success isn't really right now for BPO. Success isn't measured by being a cost savings alone. It's just not a cost optimization industry. It's measured by agility, innovation, and how well a BPO can future proof its clients' businesses. So that's how it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Gleb, you emphasize risk management and decision making in your work. What is the biggest risk for BPOs that fail to adapt to these changes?
I see a huge risk of BPOs failing to adapt by falling into complacency and really underestimating how quickly the industry is evolving. They risk losing relevance as clients are, to connect to what was just said, they're not only looking for efficiency. Efficiency is definitely something they're looking for, but they're also looking for innovation. That's really important. And so innovation with new processes, and if BPOs are just providing efficiency, but they're not providing innovation, that's going to be a huge detriment. And that's going to be a huge black mark because their clients are not going to be satisfied with that. If you're just looking for efficiency, you're essentially running the race to the bottom. You're differentiating yourself only on costs rather than on quality. And innovation is the new quality. Innovation is a true differentiator. So you want to think about innovation as a huge differentiator. What new aspects of outsourcing business processes can you offer your clients that are going to help them make their lives better? And that how can you anticipate their needs that they haven't even thought about? And the best BPOs are going to be anticipating those needs and providing those needs, and they're going to be satisfying clients in advance of what the clients think they need. So that, I think, is really important to think about. And so having that innovation needs to be part of your process. And so that needs to be involved with stakeholder management. So how do you manage your stakeholders? How do you manage your clients? I see too many BPOs as just providing the service that they're being requested for by the client, and not really engaging more thoroughly with the client and having continuing conversations about, hey, what's coming up on the client's strategic plan in the next several years, in the next, several months, but definitely want to be looking at the next several years. And then thinking about, okay, here's what the client will need in the next several years. How can I innovate in advance in order to satisfy their needs and make sure the client is sticking with me and buying more services from me? And as part of doing so, of course, thinking about generative AI, because generative AI is going to be, as I mentioned before, is going to be replacing a number of lower level services. So you want to be aware of what services can you be moving into that your clients need that are on their strategic plan, and so that you can align yourself with the anticipated future needs of your clients through engaging with them and seeing what's going on.
Thank you so much. David, Affordable Staff has really redefined managing outsourcing in Australia and New Zealand. What's the biggest conception about outsourcing today, and how should BPOs be positioning themselves differently?
But just to add on what Dr. Gleb was saying, because I think it was a really good point, and that will fit into what we're talking about, or what your question is. So Dr. Gleb spoke about so as a BPO, business process outsourcing, dependent on the type of clients that you're servicing. If you have contracts with contracts for call center work, then this is slightly different. But if we're talking about business process outsourcing from a perspective where we're discussing you're managing clients. One of the key areas, or one of the key challenges that BPOs face is you look at recruiting an individual that's working for your client, is helping to understand what service you provide as the mediator, the person in between. And I think it's a challenge that a number of BPOs have faced historically, because you look at you'll have a client come along to you and they'll say, okay, I want 10 seats for whatever the industry is, and then you'll provide those 10 seats and you're servicing the client. And then at a point in time, the client will think, what value does the mediator, the person or the intermediary, what value do they serve? And then the conversation then starts to going down the path of, well, why don't I just employ them direct? And yet, when you do look at an employing direct model, it's a whole different thing, because you have look at your infrastructure, you have look at the infrastructure, the support that the individual receives. If you're going towards that particular model, then you don't have that support. But on the flip side, a client may not understand those particular value offerings that you bring to the table. So I think it's important, as Dr. Gleb was talking about, is how it is you can differentiate yourself in a particular way to assist the client in understanding the value offering that you have for the client, and how it is you can work with the client towards helping the client achieve their goals, and achieve their goals in a best practice way that adheres to the whole concept of being a BPO, or of outsourcing. So I think I think if you're a provider that is looking at offering the services, what it is you do to differentiate yourself away from just a direct employment model. And that can be through infrastructure and support, but that can also be through the introduction of additional strategies and additional softwares and additional techniques like AI, for example, on how it is you can leverage, specifically to AI, how is it you can leverage AI to support the individuals that are performing the tasks to the offshore team. How is you can support those individuals to perform the tasks to make their lives easier, more efficient, more effective, and to support the client. So for the client to be able to go and say, wow, okay, Affordable Staff, this is what you do, as an example, as opposed to an individual team member or an individual team. This is what they do to serve the function in my business. Beyond that, making it more about, okay, how the provider is the one that is actually supporting my business, and that the provider is the one that's actually out there that's assisting me in achieving my goals, and driving technology, driving all the different components to make sure that you have that that really good solid offering.
Thank you, David, and thank you for connecting that to the key point that Dr. Gleb brought up as well. We're going to run a poll to the audience. We're going to ask everyone, what is the biggest challenge you're facing in scaling your BPO? Keeping up with technology and automation, maintaining compliance and security standards, attracting and retaining top talent, differentiating from competitors, managing client expectations and partnerships, or drop something in that we might have missed out. So we're seeing attracting and retaining top talent as a huge challenge. Over 55% of the audience, followed by keeping up with technology, managing client expectations and partnerships. All right, thank you for participating in that poll. Now we're going to move on to discussing automation. We've mentioned that a few times today already. The playbook describes automation as the ultimate advantage, not just about efficiency, as Dr. Gleb touched on, but also for compliance. David, your team has implemented AI and automation successfully. We've chatted about that. There's a few stories that you've shared with me. Can you please share an example of how automation has transformed a key process within your business?
So, one of the things about our business and wanting to remain relevant, if you call that, and we've gone through a number of different evolutions, being a business now for I think 13 odd years. So it's been relevant, or it's been important for us to make sure that we pivot any time that there's adjustments or adaptations to technology. For us, the implementation of AI has been quite substantial. And when I say quite substantial, it's really growing and evolving and moving at such a rapid rate. We've been able to use AI from an automation perspective to remove some of the common challenges that you would experience. One of the most common challenges that you experience is in relation to attention to detail. I remember talking to the team at a point in time, I think it was about a year ago, and I said, "So what's the biggest gap for us around employing really, really good talent?" And they said the biggest challenge is attention to detail. And I said, well, what if we just remove attention to detail as an issue? And we sat and we discussed it. And I said, well, what if we can start to use AI to fix the attention to detail part? So there was a particular spreadsheet that we had that team members were working on, potential applicants, so potential team members were working on, and it'll take them about 3 or 4 hours, and they had to fill in all the gaps to go and fix the spreadsheet up. And then once they fix the spreadsheet up, everything using conditional formatting would turn green to let them know that they completed it correctly. And I said, well, why do they have to do that? If we uploaded that to some form of AI, it could do that within milliseconds. So that was really a paradigm shift in a lot of ways as to how it is we could, and this is one example of automation, how it is we could replace that component where someone would have to sit there for hours trying to work out a spreadsheet, being able to teach them how they can upload it to get the AI in whatever form it is, to teach them how they can use AI to fix the sheet rather than them having to spend hours on end. And it's just been a massive paradigm shift in so many ways. So that's one example of automation.
And so simple, like such a simple thing for you to be able to uncover and solve, and such a huge effect. So you've said that automation is not just about replacing manual processes, but redefining success. What's a mistake that BPOs commonly make when integrating automation, and how can they fix that? Oh, I think we got you on mute.
Okay, I can speak to that. I've seen okay. So I've seen a number of problems with BPOs when I work with large clients, Fortune 1000 firms, Fortune 500 firms, and when BPOs implement automation without sufficient compliance, and then that becomes a serious risk. So when you're working with a
seem to have lost Dr. Gleb. Subho, do you want to jump in and answer that
Yeah,
question while we're waiting for
I
him to
jump into
return?
that.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
what Dr. Gleb was saying is absolutely relevant, without keeping in mind the context. But I'll take a step ahead. If I talk about the biggest mistake is seeing automation as a plug and play solution instead of an ecosystem shift. Now, many BPOs deploy, they deploy automation like a patchwork quilt. Some scattered RPA bots here, some AI chat bots there. Without aligning to a broader strategy. When I'm talking about broader strategy, definitely compliance is a part of that, which Dr. Gleb has very rightly mentioned. Now, if I give an example, it's like, I upgrade my car engine and I make it great, but I ignore the brakes, the suspension, the fuel injection system and stuff like that. So if I talk about the fix, I would say BPOs ought to think beyond efficiency. I mean, automation should be designed around the customer success, uh, the workforce enablement, and most importantly, long-term scalability. That is really, really important. Now, you see, winning BPOs, they integrate automation as a seamless enabler, which augments human expertise. I again repeat that, rather than replacing it. And honestly, the real game changer again is in automation itself, is how well you orchestrate it, and within your business model. Now, when I'm talking about a business model, it's just not about intelligently catering to your client demands. It's about your internal system, which I don't tire in reiterating again and again and again. The foundation of which is quality, compliance, and there's and absolutely no compromise on that. And then subsequently, it's about you create a business model that has to future-proof your business, which is extremely essential because today, the problem is not with technology. The problem is with the accessibility of technology and the way technology has been perceived today by different stakeholders. And for that, in order to future-proof your business, that business model has to, orchestrate that entire game-changing automation strategy in a manner where it has to be an integral part, and that is the only fix that BPOs can do. And it is not number one, it is not hard. Number two, it is definitely not cost intensive. There's a very clever way of automating your entire system and make it in a part of a process. And believe me, costs that future-proof your business are extremely logical and inevitable costs, and BPOs should recognize this cost. So again, it's just coming out of that phase of just being cost optimizers rather than being, intelligent solution providers, future-proofing the business of their clients as well.
Thank you, Subho. Dr. Gleb, did you want to add anything to that? I know you just dropped off mid-sentence.
Yeah, little bit of internet issues here, probably having to do with a thunderstorm that's going through the area. But yes, so thank you, Subho. So compliance issue is real, and I've seen a number of BPOs be questioned and not have the right answers when their clients ask them about what their compliance is. And when they think about, okay, here's my compliance, they don't necessarily align it sufficiently with the compliance of their clients. And so this is a serious issue where I've seen insufficient communication between the BPO compliance team and the client's compliance team, especially since sometimes BPOs are not that large, and they don't have that much dedicated compliance resources. And so there's a mismatch between the BPO, which works for a large client, the BPO itself is much smaller, and they might not have good visibility into the compliance team of their clients. And so that's really something that BPOs need to be proactive about, because that's something that clients are increasingly being proactive about. I mean, I remember the Samsung electronic situation where one of their coders put some code into ChatGPT and then it became publicly available, and that became a real issue. Now, and that resulted in Samsung banning the use of ChatGPT. Now, what happens if this wasn't a full-time employee of Samsung? If what if this was someone that you provided, a service that you provided? So you don't want to get into those situations. You really want to be thinking about what are your clients going to be needing, and how does compliance look from the perspective of your clients? Where are they going? Skating to where the puck is going, not to where it currently is. Because right now, when you look at a number of industries, let's say finance has, there are some exceptions like MasterCard, but banks on the whole, they're using internal tools for generative AI. And so if you are providing them with services, do you have access to their internal generative AI tools? If not, are you using your own generative AI tools that are commercially available? And how would they feel about you using your own commercially available internal generative AI tools when their standard is to use their own internal generative AI tools only? So that's something, and that's just one example of where you really need to address this mismatch between what your clients need and what you have, and see if, as a part of providing whatever needs your client is asking you to serve, can you get access to their internal compliance team and align with whatever their needs are?
Compliance is a huge topic, and it's not just a tick box. It's one thing that when I spoke to all of you and the other interviewees for the BPO playbook, that rang loud and true. It's the foundation of trust, and it's a competitive advantage. And so let's launch our second poll. We want to know what the biggest compliant challenge that your BPO faces today. Is it navigating global regulations, evolving regulations, meeting client compliance requirements, data privacy and security risks, scaling compliance without slowing operations, or something else? So we're seeing a big response on scaling compliance without slowing operations, data privacy and security risks, and meeting the evolving global regulations coming in third. Thank you for everyone that participated. We'll share the results. So let's dive into compliance even further. Dr. Gleb, you've worked with companies on proactive risk management. What are the biggest compliance blind spots that BPOs are overlooking?
I think one of the biggest challenges I see is seeing compliance as a one-time effort as part of onboarding with a specific client, rather than a ongoing continuous focus. So you go through the process, the onboarding, whatever workday, whatever process, onboarding process they use. You get an initial compliance certification, but then you don't put in any systems for ongoing monitoring and adjustment, which of course creates a lot of risks for you and creates a lot of risks for your client. And there's no good way that many clients have of, when their compliance needs evolve, to go back to their third-party providers and make sure that there's anticipated changes. Also, sometimes what I see happening is that if there is a process, it comes in as a sudden demand on a BPO rather than good communication between the client and the BPO. And unfortunately, especially larger clients, they're not necessarily thinking about the needs of their third-party providers. They're not really thinking about those needs. They're thinking about, okay, here's my policy, and I'm just going to announce it, and then you need to hurry up and catch up to what my internal policy is. So that creates a lot of trouble. And that goes back into what I was talking about earlier. how much visibility do you have into the compliance needs of your clients, and what kind of systems do you have for ongoing monitoring and adjustment? So that's kind of something to think about. Another is jurisdiction. So your client, depending on where your client is, you might have different regulations in different jurisdictions. Obviously, for example, Europe has GDPR, its new AI Act, if we're talking about technology, those, and there are a number of other regulations that you need to be thinking about, which makes it difficult because BPOs often are not very good, especially because they tend to not have that many compliance resources and not be thinking about this sufficiently. They don't adapt their compliance practices sufficiently to local requirements. So that leaves them exposed to legal and financial risks that are just not going to come up until they do come up. And if they do come up, BPO that doesn't have good insurance, that doesn't have good risk management, that's going to be a serious issue. So those are some issues I've seen with blind spots around compliance.
So, is there anything, any compliance blind spots that your business has overseen, or overlooked in the last 2-3 years that you could share with the audience as a key learning?
So that was for me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. See, very frankly, I'll go back to what I've always reiterated. Compliance is not a fix. Compliance is not a necessity. Compliance is not, it's not a deliverable. In BPO, compliance is a culture. And I keep on saying this. It starts from the fact that it doesn't end, as a stakeholder. I appoint a great CISO or a great CSO, and he takes up or she takes care of the compliance. No, I mean, or I have a important stakeholder who takes care of compliance. But as a CXO, as a stakeholder, I am equally invested in this entire process. Number one. Number two, the clients that I have catered to, the majority of the clients who have had a very smooth sailing with their respective clients in terms of compliance are the clients that have followed this structure, where compliance is a culture. So it is something like, they have their own integrated system. So as I mentioned with you in our previous discussion that, a BPO should have all the boxes ready. A client can come and check in on the boxes. Now, when I say check in on the boxes, some of the boxes might be relevant, as Dr. Gleb said, depending on the jurisdiction. And they want to check those boxes. Yeah, okay, are you compliant about this? Are you aware of the jurisdictional, necessities that are from our part of the geography? That is fine. But internally, a BPO should be, they should have that structure, and that's the culture. Like, it should not be it definitely should not be that, it's a mandate that I have to follow. That's the way I work. That's the way I work. And that is the culture that has to be brought in BPOs. Yes, BPOs, as I always said, BPOs need to invest in learning in a bigger perspective. But yes, definitely learning and educating on compliance. That is one of the main areas, extremely, extremely important. It is sooner or later that, successful BPO, winning BPOs need to seriously, invest in learning and creating a culture wherein, it is something like, if I join X BPO, even if I leave after a year, it's a part of my culture. As a professional, I am that. And for that, the BPO doesn't lose anything. It's just imparting a different culture. So that is what is important. And it is extremely, extremely important that BPOs budget in terms of building this culture inside. And, it might sound, very theoretical, but I have seen it practically happen. And it might, sound, it might sound that it perhaps, we are doing compliance, we are compliant, we have our own structures, but BPO should question themselves, is it our culture? Employee retention is BPO's culture. Employees say, we would love to work there. That's what I'm talking when I'm talking about a culture. Yeah, I would love to work in that company. I would love to, be a part of that company, aspiring professionals would say. So is that culture, is that a part of that part of the BPO? Once it goes into that, that kind of a vein of the business, uh, I would say that yes, they are on a winning path, and it's going to be very easy thereafter. It's going to be because as a client, I'm looking for trust. I am putting a lot at risk when I'm outsourcing something. So I want to understand that if my vendor or my partner, as I would say, right now BPOs are going to stop being vendors. They're going to start being partners. If is my transactional partner or is my consultative partner, well groomed in terms of, are they well as an organization? Are they waiting for me to tell them, what they need to structure, or they're already well structured? So that's a higher amount of reliance that that communicates across.
And I know, David, you're no stranger to that. Your company has built ISO 27001. Is that how it's 27001 certified
27,001.
27,000 certified compliance
That's right.
programs. What is the best way for a growing BPO to implement scalable compliance frameworks? We just heard from the poll that is a concern. How do you stay compliant and scale while keeping the operations running?
So there's two ways of looking at it. One way of looking at it is saying that it's a cost. The other way of looking at it is saying that it's an investment. And there certainly is an investment that's involved in order for you to achieve the level of compliance. And I believe I've worked across my my working life. I've worked for a number of bosses across that period of time, and I've been a boss or self-employed now for quite a few years. One of the things I noticed when I was working for a boss is the instruction would be a more of a do as I say, not as I do. So I think that that as a boss now working and having people working for me, it's more of a lead by example, and the cultural shift that I believe that Subho was mentioning beforehand, and I think is critical and important, is that if you're looking at making a shift around compliance, then it can't just be a you stand at the top and you point down and you say to everyone, you just do what I'm telling you to do, and then you go and do something totally different. It needs to be something which it feeds through from the cleaners that you have within your business, all the way to the CEO and the C-suite and the senior leadership within the business. So I think that if you're looking at implementing change, be it what we're talking about now or any type of change, that it needs to flow as the lifeblood of the business. It needs to be in the pulse of every individual that's a part of the business, irrespective of the role that they hold within the business, that we all hold each other to the same standard and to the same level and to the same responsibility that we have. So I think that my key piece of advice, if you're looking at creating change like we're talking about here, is that you are owning the change, investing in the change, and that you are like really solidly making it a part of you and those around you. Because if you're looking at if you're looking at rolling out a change in compliance, if you're looking at rolling out a change in AI, if you're looking at rolling out a change in whatever, that you are all your stakeholders and all of your individuals that are a part of it, that everyone is held to the same level of judgment or the same level of responsibility that you have within the business. So it means that it's like I said, it's more than just pointing and saying, I'll do what I say that you have to do. It's really about how it is you can actually be a part of that change as well. And every single person can be a part of that change. As a part of 27,001, every single individual, if you were to walk up to anyone within my business and you were to say to them, what is our security policy and what is our quality policy? They'll be able to answer it because we all collectively together, culturally, are owning it. It's not something pushed on you. It's something that you all own.
And I think that touches on the fact that you can only scale if you have top talent. The playbook states, most BPOs must secure top talent with zero compromises. And David, your company has a strong track record of talent acquisition and retention. What is the key to recruiting and keeping elite talent in such a competitive market?
So I think you need to look at it as how it is you can set yourself up for success and how it is you can set yourself up as an attractor. Because you're right, there's so much competition in the marketplace at the moment. And when we first started as a BPO, 13 or however many years ago, it was a long time ago now. It was really it was quite a new thing, if you were to call it that, to the industry. And one of the things back then is you'd have 100 applicants for one role, and that's evolved and changed. It's evolved and changed due to generational marketplace that have an expectation of they have a very, very different expectation. It's about how is it you're tailoring your business for my individual experience. So I think a lot of it is a question as to how it is you can set yourself up as an attractor, and why is it someone would want to choose you over choosing someone else. So it's a bit of a paradigm shift in a number of ways, rather than thinking, okay, well, I'm going to go and advertise for a role. What do you get? You get paid. You get a stable job. You get this. You get that. I mean, that's all good. But instead of saying, "Oh, well, I'm paying you, so you do what I tell you to do," mate, it needs to be a paradigm shift to say, "Okay, so what is it I am offering you? What is it? Why is it you should work for me as opposed to the next person? Around the corner who offers exactly the same." So, in my opinion, attracting good talent is around how it is you can position yourself as an employer of choice. But then on top of that, it's a question of how you treat the team that you have working for you. It's funny. Our name is Affordable Staff, but it's an oxymoron because I actually don't like the use of the word staff, because staff is like a stick that you beat someone with. Whereas your team is a collaboration of people that work together. So for me, it's about how it is you can demonstrate to the potential employee that's coming to work with you that you are an employer of choice, but then how you treat people once they're actually are working for you. What do you offer them? We have a package called Total Rewards that we've set up for every team member that comes and works with us within Affordable Staff. It spells out into 5 different categories what it is to work with us. And notice I'm saying with us, not for us, and how it is we work collaboratively together through the concept of empowerment. So I think attracting talent, it's more of a paradigm shift around how what your service offering is that you have. I say service offering in relation to the team that you're looking at employing. What's the service offering that you have for them, and how is it that you're going to empower them and work collaboratively together towards servicing the client and servicing the business?
Yeah, so true. It is, and that's shifting daily, and it's great to see that you're working with your employees, and you see them as a team, not as staff. I think that is the shift that we're seeing greatly in the future of work is that connection changing. And so once you talk about continuous upskilling. So once we have the right talent on board, how are you building that continuous learning while balancing day-to-day operations? And everyone, while Subho answers that question, please have a think about what questions you would like to ask the panelists. We're going to open up the floor very shortly.
Yeah, while I embark upon upskilling, I just want to, continue from what David was saying. We've invest, since 2008, I've been advocating this, I have been trying to insist upon this entire concept, when it comes to employee retention or recruitment, attrition is the major problem, that BPOs face, because that's the nature of the business. I wouldn't say it's a problem. It's the nature of the business. So how do we optimize on that? So like at Nistula, we have created something which is called a human resource operating system. It's basically, integrating whatever technology that you have. And this concept is, it stems from the point that, human resource training and operations, the three important pillars, that structure the entire human capital management. These needn't be disintegrated. All three of them should be integrated, where, it's like a cycle. So, and this operating system is completely based on that concept. So that helps in not only identifying the best talent, which it is also about the contribution of each stakeholder into finding the right mix. And this system actually would make life easy for all three of them. So it doesn't have to be like, operations has to say that, you've not trained well. Training says, you didn't hire well. So, and hiring says you didn't inform me well. What I should be hiring. You said you need this and I gave you this. So this disintegration has to be integrated in a process, binded by automation, which gives a system. And there's a lot of corrective and auditory functions that are present, which ideally this is what is essential for BPOs to optimize on their human capital and get the best out of the culture that with hiring and and attrition that is very prevalent to the industry. And so, and coming to your upskilling point, if I may say this, BPOs that don't build a culture of learning are already obsolete. And probably they just don't know it yet. But if they are not building a culture of learning, they are already obsolete. This industry is evolving. I wouldn't say fast, it's evolving too fast. It is so fast that it's, a one-time training model is definitely not something that this industry should look at. The whole key is embedding learning into the workflow itself. You like think real time in terms of micro learning. Okay, you have AI-driven personalized training paths, and we have technology now, and it's very easy. You have experiential learning, where employees can learn by doing, and that is one of the main things that BPOs can gain from, and that's one thing that is possible in this industry because the way we work in this industry. Of course, gamification is there, knowledge sharing platforms are there, that probably all BPOs have, and like peer-led mentorship, engagement-based mentorship. But what is very, very important is the leadership should set the tone. This is such a fast-moving industry, even CXOs need to learn. It is very, very important. And when upskilling is a KPI at the top, it has to be a KPI at the top. It becomes a movement throughout the organization. Balancing learning with operations isn't a challenge. I've heard a lot of BPOs coming across, when I'm talking about upskilling, but then we have to take time out of operations. My point is your operations does not exist if learning does not exist. So it's, balancing learning with operations. I wouldn't say it's a challenge. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to future-proof yourself. The BPO that nails this, they just don't train their workforce. I can only say it that they future-proof it. So, and trust me, I would love to be a part of a BPO where I'm learning, and I can see that maybe if I look at my career graph beyond 6 months, beyond 8 months, uh, I would be at a loss if I shift out somewhere else. I'd rather stay here and learn more and, really find something fruitful for myself to evaluate myself, to value add on myself. And that's all about. So that's how I can future proof.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. We have covered a lot of ground today, and now we want to hear from you. So I'm going to pass over to Aubrey, who's going to run our Q&A today. Please pop your questions in the chat.
Yeah, add your questions into either the chat or the Q&A. I did see one come in from Daniel. He mentioned that one of the biggest focus areas for him is maintaining an ongoing level of sales. So I'm curious if any of the panelists have maybe a response to that. How are you maintaining an ongoing level of sales? And he's also in a BPO business.
Okay, shall I take it?
It's all yours.
Go ahead.
No, if you want to come in, David, please. I mean,
I think just really briefly. So if you're looking at maintaining an ongoing level of sales, it's let's see, how have we done it? It's about continuing to remain relevant within the industry and the verticals that you're servicing, and again evolving and like you said, Subho, beforehand, BPOs are changing and it's rapidly evolving and actually just to ask you, Subho, what do you think it's evolving so fast?
it's the way companies are looking at their outsourcing partners. Now it is no more a cost saving option anymore. It's an intelligent partner who is providing intelligent solution, which is not only adding to their growth metrics, it is also creating an entire ecosystem of future proofing their business as well.
Yeah.
So it's transforming very fast from a client vendor relationship to a client partner relationship. So BPOs are either transactional partner or consultative partners. And previously BPOs were transactional partners only. Now BPOs also becoming consultative partners.
Yes, and
it's really growing very, very fast. And BPOs who are enable themselves in that area in terms of compliance, in terms of quality deliverance, in terms of intelligent automation, where a client feels that this is the partner I want to engage with because I see my business, my graphs changing with this partnership. So that's basically what is changing so fast, and it is really, really changing. It's not anymore a 10 seat or a 15 seat catering to a particular back office function.
Yeah, correct.
In fact, I'm sorry. In fact, I would even add on that, very soon, because majority of the clients are using automation to take care of that function. They don't, they are no more. Now they are looking at value addition. So the BPOs who are ready to add value, these are the BPOs who would stand tall in the, right now. I won't say the future, right now.
I work collaboratively with a lot of BPOs within similar industries, but in industries outside of mine. And I was talking to an engineering BPO that about 350 seats, so they were a good size. And one of the things that they said was that there are these particular tasks that people are outsourcing to us that AI can do right now. And I remember saying to him, I said to him, "So what are you doing about that?" And he said, "Oh, well, I'm just waiting to see what happens." And it was just like, why would you be doing that? Why wouldn't you be doing something about it? And I said to him, "So what is it? What is it that that the team can do that the AI can't?" And I just watched him, and his brain sort of locked up, and he had this blank look off into the distance because he didn't really think, how is it that what's the value add for the human? And I think that it's critical if you are running a BPO and you're looking at AI and automation and all this sort of stuff, that you consider what is the importance of the human, because the human, like without us, without all of us, then it wouldn't be a really good existence, really.
Absolutely, David. I am a client. If you are a BPO, uh, I have a budget to automate my processes. But when you talk to me and tell me, it's fine, you automate, we also automate. But that extra, that human factor, when you advance your skill, in terms of skilling, in terms of deliverance, in terms of service delivery, when you understand the value addition, which you are doing along with automation. So you are taking automation, that's a part of your skill. You're building upon that, and then you're adding value. You're adding strategic inputs based on that value, and covering all of that. And then you're looking at value adding specifically to those businesses. Now, say, for example, for any business, revenue is the main point. They're looking about revenue. So the revenue has different aspects. Revenue is talking about customer success, customer retention. Revenue is talking about the right product market fit. Revenue is talking about right market penetration. So, how am I adding value to that entire process? And why is it that you can't do anything without me? I mean, I can't do anything without you because I clearly see that you're adding that value, which is actually future-proofing my business. So, let businesses automate, and that's good. Businesses are automating. I would say it's good for the BPOs. If businesses are automating, this is the time for BPOs to take that now automation is natural. What am I doing to add value, creating that matrix, that value matrix that is going to change the lives of my clients? So, I don't have the time to reinvent the wheel. I can do automation, but I cannot go back, research and develop and find out what I can do. I need a partner for that.
Yeah.
Who's taking care of my automation, who's taking care of the knowledge that needs to run that automation. See, again, automation is important, but I also need to have the knowledge to run that automation. Whether that automation is actually optimizing, I have adopted technology, but is that technology giving what my business is supposed to receive? There could be two issues. I mean, either I'm not being able to use it wisely, or it probably is not the right fit. So if I have a partner who's taking care of that, then the problem is solved. And that's really what, as consultative partners, that's exactly what we are doing with companies.
Yeah,
we are making in love with outsourcing, and that's how it is. We are marrying BPOs to them, and that's how it is. And in the process, we are helping the clients who are our, BPOs, which are our clients. We're just telling them this is how you develop your entire ecosystem.
Yeah, I think we have time for one. Oh, sorry, David. One final question, but it's on the exact same topic. I think it's in the same vein. Someone asked, a lot of their clients are going after low-cost labor, but they bring a lot of value to the table, but they're being price cut by their competitors. And the question is, should they worry about that or just focus on what they're doing best? I think that speaks a lot to what you guys were talking about.
Yeah, price cutting. If you've got yourself stuck in a position where you're competing against price, then my advice to you would be to look at your model, because we're certainly not the cheapest. It would be cheaper for someone to employ direct, but it's what is your service offering? What is your value that you offer if an individual is looking at utilizing your service as opposed to employing direct or another cheaper option? We want to, as a business, our purpose, our cultural purpose is to inspire confidence and get it done together. So that's why we exist. And we communicate with our clients, is that we're there to inspire confidence and for us to get it done together. And as a component of our purpose, that means that if a client is coming and looking at working with us, that we're handling all the heavy lifting, so you can get the result. And that's essentially what it translates to. So I think if you are again stuck in that place where you're competing on price, then that would be my piece of advice to you would be, how is it you're differentiating yourself? And then if you are differentiating yourself, how is it you are looking at how does that differentiation, such a big word, look for your clients as well as your team that you're looking at employing? Because you need to make sure that you're differentiating yourself in such a way that you are able to get good talent and retain them, and also get good clients and retain them. So it's about looking at what your value offer, what your services that you're offering, and what the differentiators that you have.
Another idea to think about, and thank you for that, is to make sure that your pricing is success-based. So you don't have to have pricing that's just seat-based. You could also consider a bid that's a little bit different. So for example, with certain metrics that you commit to hitting, and then for your client. And then if you hit those metrics, you get certain rewards. And so your bid can be dependent. So you partner essentially with your client to make sure that you are going to be more successful, and the client is going to be more successful. So differentiating your bid.
Thank you so much. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I was going to say really briefly, I have to admit, I don't compete on price. I win clients from people that are cheaper than me. And I don't even, if you do a survey, if you do it if I look at employees, because the biggest comment that I see from others is, how is it that I can compete on price with the people that I'm employing? And it's not that it's never, people think that it is, but it certainly isn't the number one determining factor. There are other factors that come to play. I think price from memory was like number 3 on the scale of the top 5 reasons.
Yeah, value yourselves more, BPOs. All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you to our 3 panelists. That was amazing. We're going to be writing an article with the wrap up of the webinar. We're going to be sending out the recording. If you haven't already, download the playbook. It's packed with loads more of these strategies from our 3 leaders here, plus some others. And if you're looking to scale, we'd love to continue the conversation. Head over to hubstaff.com and request a demo. Thank you for joining. See you next time, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pati. Thank you.